Now I request you to go through these additional resources. These resources have been shortlisted to provide you a better understanding and a deeper insight into few interesting and important aspects of COVID-19 care. These resources include how to break the chain of transmission, how to wear a medical mask, when and how children should wear a mask, save lives, clean your hands. No action now, no future tomorrow. Make hand sanitizer part of your mask wearing routine. The Safe Hands Challenge, and few more, like preventing COVID-19 in your workplace or while teleworking. I'm sure you would enjoy these additional resources as much as you have the rest of the content. Thank you.
Preventing COVID-19 in your workplace or while teleworking. There are several things you can do to protect yourself and others from COVID-19 in your workplace, whether you are at your work site or teleworking at home. Follow distancing measures issued for your location and stay informed through information from trusted sources, such as WHO and your local health authority. Stay at home and avoid direct contact with anyone if you feel unwell or even have a mild cough. This will help protect your colleagues at work and your family members at home. If you are feeling well and need to go to work, you can reduce your risk of catching the virus by avoiding crowded public transport. If possible, go by bike or walk. Otherwise, if possible, discuss with your supervisor if you can work from home. At work or at home, if you can, use the stairs instead of elevators. Avoid using your hands to touch common objects like elevator buttons, door handles, or staircase railings. If you work in an office, create distance-based meetings either through video conferencing or by maintaining at least 1 meter space between people in the same room. If you work in contact with the public, stay at least 1 meter away from others as much as you can. After commuting to and from work and throughout the day, clean your hands frequently and thoroughly. Avoid touching your eyes, mouth, and nose. Ventilate your workplace regularly, keeping the windows open if possible. Make sure tables, door handles, and other frequently touched surfaces are disinfected regularly. Avoid crowded places and unnecessary public activities. Find no-contact ways to greet your colleagues and express affection to your friends and family. While maintaining physical distance, stay social. Contact your family and colleagues regularly to check how they are coping. Remember to seek ways to stay active and positive. Stay healthy, and let's all prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Hello and welcome to Science in 5. I'm Vismita Gupta-Smith and we're talking about the Delta variant today. Our expert today is Dr. Maria Van Kerkhove. Maria, welcome. My first question to you is, explain to us, please, what we know now in July 2021 about the Delta variant.
So the Delta variant is a variant of concern that WHO is tracking and monitoring around the world. It's a variant of concern because we know it has increased transmissibility. This has been demonstrated by several countries, and we know that where the Delta variant is identified, it really rapidly takes off and spreads between people more efficiently than even the Alpha variant that was first detected around December, January 2021. As of today, the Delta variant has been reported in 96 countries, and we expect that the Delta variant will continue to spread. There are a number of factors that are contributing to increased transmission around the world. The first are these variants of concern, including the Delta variant. The second factor is that we have increased social mixing and increased social mobility, which increases the number of contacts that individuals have. The third factor is the relaxation or the inappropriate use of public health and social measures. Proven public health and social measures that we know prevent infections, reduce the spread of somebody who is infected with the virus to others, and save lives. And the fourth factor is the uneven and inequitable distribution of vaccines. The world remains largely susceptible to infection, including any variants of concern, including the Delta variant.
So, Maria, different countries of the world are in different stages of this pandemic. How can we assess our risk wherever we live to protect ourselves from the Delta variant?
So this is a very important question. Knowing your risk helps you to take the measures to lower your risk every single day. There are many things that you can do yourself that can keep yourself protected and keep your loved ones protected against this virus, including the Delta variant. This includes making sure you have clean hands and wearing a mask, making sure that mask covers your nose and your mouth, and that you have clean hands when you put on your mask and you take off your mask. It involves avoiding crowded spaces, keeping your distance from others, making sure that if you are indoors, you are in a room that has good ventilation. And in many respects, that's as simple as opening a window or two windows so that you have good airflow. Taking all of those measures will reduce the possibility of exposure to the virus and reduce the possibility of you getting infected. In addition, when it's your turn, get vaccinated. We know that the vaccines are incredibly effective of preventing severe disease and death. And so when it is your turn, make sure that you take that opportunity and you get vaccinated and you get the full doses. If you are required to get 2 doses, make sure you go back for that second dose so that you could be fully protected against severe disease and death.
Maria, do our risks change? And also, should we change our tactics and protective measures depending on what situations we find ourselves in? For instance, we could be in a country or a city which has high vaccination, or we could be in a setting where there is low vaccination.
Too many people around the world are not yet vaccinated or who have not yet received the full vaccination course. And so people remain susceptible to infection and they remain susceptible to severe disease and death. This is why we continue to recommend to take a comprehensive approach using all of the tools that we have at our disposal to prevent ourselves from getting infected in the first place, and if we are infected, to pass the virus to others. At the present time, we recommend to continue to adhere, to reinforce adherence to all of the measures that we have, all of the tools that we have at our disposal. Follow the local guidance that's issued in your area and make sure that you take control over what you do every day and reduce your opportunities for getting infected. So remember, this is a dynamic situation and we're learning more every day about these variants of concern. So for the time being, do everything that you can to keep yourself safe and keep up with the latest information.
Thank you, Maria. That was Science in 5 today. Until next time then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stick with science. There are a lot of rumors and myths around vaccines and COVID-19. In Science in 5 today, we'll try to explain the science and facts related to these rumors. Welcome to Science in 5. I'm Vismita Gupta-Smith, and this is WHO's Conversations in Science. Answering your questions today is Dr. Catherine O'Brien. Welcome, Kate.
Thanks so much. Pleased to be with you today.
Kate, one of the rumors that we hear a lot is about infertility and vaccines. What is the science behind that?
The vaccines we give cannot cause for infertility. This is a rumor that has gone around about many different vaccines, and there's no truth to the rumor. There's no vaccine that causes infertility.
Kate, another rumor is about the vaccine somehow changing the DNA. What is the science and facts about that?
Yeah, we've heard this rumor a lot. We have 2 vaccines now that are referred to as mRNA vaccines. And there's no way that mRNA can turn into DNA, and there's no way that mRNA can change the DNA of our human cells. What mRNA is, it's the instructions to the body to make a protein. Most vaccines are developed by actually giving a protein or giving a small, tiny component of the germ that we're trying to vaccinate against. And this is a new approach where instead of giving that tiny little part, Instead, we just give the instructions to our own bodies to make that tiny little part, and then our natural immune system responds to it.
Kate, another persistent rumor about vaccines is about their composition, the chemicals in them harming the person who gets the vaccine. Can you please explain the science and the evidence behind this rumor?
This is a myth. The vaccines that we have are safe vaccines. All the components that go into vaccines are heavily tested to be sure that everything that is in there, at the dose that is in there, is safe for humans. The vaccines do contain a number of different elements, and each of them is tested before they're ever given to a human. They're tested in animals, and they're tested for any kind of problem in the animal. And only then do they go into humans, where we test in clinical trials with tens of thousands of people receiving the vaccines eventually before they're authorized for use in the general public. And safety is the most important part of those clinical trials. Every single vaccine goes through a safety evaluation to be sure that it's safe before it's used in the general public. In addition to that, the manufacturing of the vaccines has a constant oversight of quality so that every single ingredient that goes into the vaccine is assured to be of the highest quality and safe for use in humans.
Thank you, Kate. That was Dr. Catherine O'Brien. If you have more questions about the vaccines, about COVID-19, please put them on our timelines on various social media channels, and we'll do our best to get to them in the next few episodes. Until next time then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stick with science.
No matter where you live or who you are, each of us can help break the chains of COVID-19 transmission. Here's what you can do to protect yourself and others. Cover your cough and sneeze. Clean your hands frequently and thoroughly, especially before and after putting on a mask and going outside or coming home. Avoid crowded places and mass gatherings. Avoid touching surfaces in public, as they might be contaminated by someone with the virus. Socialise at a distance. Stay at least 1 metre away from others as much as you can, and wear a mask if you can't. If you feel even slightly unwell, stay home. Call your local health authorities and get tested. If you test positive, follow the recommendations from health authorities about how and where you should isolate from others, and receive medical care if needed. Make a list of people you have recently been in contact with. Self-quarantine for 14 days if you have been in contact with anyone confirmed with COVID-19. Make sure you follow your local guidance. Each country or area has its own levels of transmission, resources, and recommendations, and the situation can change rapidly. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the way we live, work, and connect with others. It is challenging, but together, we can break the chains of COVID-19 transmission.
Medical masks should be worn by health workers and those caring for someone with COVID-19 symptoms, persons aged 60 and over, and anyone with pre-existing medical conditions, as they are at greater risk of developing serious illness, and people who have symptoms suggestive of COVID-19. Before touching the mask, clean your hands with alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. Inspect the mask for tears or holes. Do not use a mask that has previously been worn or is damaged. Verify which side is the top. This is usually where the metal strip is. Identify the inside of the mask, which is usually the white side. Place the mask on your face, covering your nose, mouth, and chin, making sure there are no gaps between your face and the mask. Pinch the metal strip so that it molds to the shape of your nose. Remember, do not touch the front of the mask while using it to avoid contamination. If you accidentally touch it, clean your hands. Now, how do you take off a medical mask? Before touching the mask, once again, ensure that you clean your hands with alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. Remove the straps from behind the head or ears without touching the front of the mask. As you remove the mask, lean forward and pull the mask away from your face. Medical masks are for single use only. Discard the mask immediately, preferably into a closed bin. Clean your hands after touching the mask. Always be aware of the condition of the mask. Replace it if it gets soiled or damp. A mask alone cannot protect you from COVID-19. It must be combined with other measures, including maintaining at least 1 meter distance from each other, washing your hands frequently, and avoid touching your eyes, mouth, and nose while wearing a mask. Stay safe and help prevent the spread of COVID-19.
In areas where COVID-19 is widespread, masks can help stop the spread of COVID-19. Here's what to know about children and masks. Those under the age of 5 don't need to wear a mask because they are less likely to be able to wear it properly. However, there may be local requirements or times when a mask is necessary, such as when the child is sick. Children 6 to 11 years old can wear a mask when recommended. Make sure they can wear it safely and there is adequate adult supervision. The use of masks for children 12 and over should follow the same guidance as adults. For children with developmental disorders or disabilities, masks should not be mandatory and assessed on a case-by-case basis. Children with underlying health issues such as cystic fibrosis or cancer should wear a medical mask for protection. Children in general good health should wear a fabric mask when they can't be at least 1 meter away from others or are in a poorly ventilated space. Before putting on the mask, children should clean their hands at least 20 seconds if using an alcohol-based hand rub, or at least 40 seconds if using soap and water. Make sure the mask is the right size to cover the nose, mouth, and chin. Children should not touch the front of the mask, pull it under the chin or into the mouth, and definitely not share it. After taking off their mask, they should store it in a bag or container and clean their hands. With these simple tips and good supervision, children can stay safe while wearing their masks and still have fun with their friends.
Please note that this technique is not appropriate when hands are visibly dirty or after using the toilet. In these cases, hand washing is required. Hand rubbing should take you 20 to 30 seconds. Use a timer or count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in each of the following steps. Apply a palmful of alcohol-based hand rub in a cupped hand, enough to cover all surfaces of the hands. Rub hands palm to palm, then rub right palm over the back of left hand with interlaced fingers and vice versa. Rub again palm to palm with fingers interlaced. Rub the back of your fingers to opposing palms with fingers interlocked, repeating this action for each hand. Rub rotationally left thumb clasped in right palm and vice versa. To clean the tips of your fingers, rub rotationally backwards and forwards with clasped fingers of right hand in left palm and vice versa. Once dry, your hands are now clean and safe.
Hello and welcome to Science in 5, WHO's Conversations in Science. I'm Vismita Gupta-Smith, and this is the series where WHO experts will explain the science related to COVID-19 so that you can protect yourself and your loved ones. In today's show, we are talking to WHO's chief scientist, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, and she is going to explain herd immunity. Welcome, Soumya.
Thank you, Smita.
Soumya, we are hearing a lot about herd immunity. So let's start with, please tell us, what is herd immunity?
So let's take an example of a disease like measles, which is a very common childhood infectious illness caused by measles virus, for which there's a very effective vaccine. Now, we say that to achieve herd immunity in the population, for measles, you need about 95% the people to have immunity or antibodies. Even if you have 5% of children not vaccinated, these others actually have enough protection in the population to prevent the measles virus from actually going from one person to the next. So it's really like having a barrier of people who are protected, who break that chain of transmission. So you don't need every single person in the area, in the population to necessarily be protected.
Is it the right way to think about herd immunity in the context of COVID to say the vaccine is far away, why don't we just let everyone get infected?
So the SARS-CoV-2 virus is a highly transmissible virus. We think it needs at least 60 to 70% of the population to have immunity to really break the chain of transmission. If you allow this to happen naturally, it will take a long time, of course, but more importantly, it's going to do a lot of collateral damage. So even if 1% of people who get infected are ultimately going to die, then this can add up to a huge number of people if you look at the global population. And that is why we believe it's not a good idea to try to achieve herd immunity by just letting the infection run wild in the population and infect a lot of people. And that we should talk about herd immunity in the context of a vaccine.
So let me come to the vaccine now. So our strategy is to vaccinate enough people rather than just letting people get infected. Is that where the science is now?
That's right. Because with a vaccine, you can achieve immunity and herd immunity safely. Through natural infection, you could also achieve it at some point, but it would be at great human cost. And so naturally, the better choice is doing it through a vaccine.
Those are preventable deaths, right? We can actually, even though we don't have a vaccine, we don't have therapeutics right now, we can actually slow down and save those lives rather than just let it spread, right? Speak to us about that.
Exactly. So there are actions now that we can take which can help to slow down transmission, to control it, to try to contain it, and also we know how to manage people better. The other measures that are effective are, of course, the public health and social measures that we talk about, the physical distancing, making sure you're wearing a mask when you're in crowded settings, when washing your hands frequently. Those are the modes by which you can actually prevent the virus from transmitting from one person to the next. And then on the side of being able to detect rapidly those who are infected in the community, making sure that enough testing is available so that you're able to detect and diagnose people, be able to isolate them, then test their contacts and quarantine them. These are the measures that have been shown to be successful. They are hard work, they are difficult to implement, but it's worth doing because then you're saving lives till the time that we have both more effective medicines to treat this disease and, of course, a safe and effective vaccine.
Thank you, Soumya. There you have it, WHO's chief scientist explaining herd immunity. Join us next time in our series Science in 5. Until then, stay safe and stick with science. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome to Science in 5. I'm Vismita Gupta-Smith. We are talking today about the Delta variant and vaccines. Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, WHO's chief scientist, is our expert today. Welcome, Soumya. Our first question to you, Soumya, is we know that the Delta variant is more transmissible. Please explain to us what kind of protection we get from the current batch of approved vaccines.
So we're talking here about the Delta variant, which is the fourth variant of concern described by WHO because it's both more transmissible than the previous variants and also has been able to resist the antibodies that we have in our blood. So what that means is that you need a higher level of antibodies to overcome this variant as compared to, let's say, the Alpha variant. Now, the good news is that all of the WHO emergency use listed vaccines do protect against developing severe disease, hospitalization and death due to the Delta variant. So there are studies now from countries where there is a predominance of Delta variant to show that people who've been vaccinated are much less likely to end up in hospital. And you need the full course of vaccination in order to give you that full immunity to protect you against the Delta variant. So the important thing is, if you have access to a vaccine that's approved by WHO, please do take it and take the full course so that you can be protected both against the Delta and other variants of COVID.
Soumya, explain to us, please, the level of protection that you have if you have received one dose of the vaccine versus if you're fully vaccinated.
So the main goal of these vaccines is really to prevent severe disease, because what we want is for people, even if they get the infection, is for them to recover from it and not become seriously ill. So that's something that all of these vaccines do really well. Of course, there are different levels. You read about the efficacy trials. They may range from 70 to 90%. But in terms of just looking at the prevention of severe disease and hospitalization, they're all very good, over 90% effective. Again, they vary in the protection against getting infection. Ideally, you'd like a vaccine which completely prevents you from getting infected, therefore you can't get ill. But none of the vaccines that we have currently are 100% protective. So this is why even if you're vaccinated, you can get the infection, but the chances are you'll get a very mild symptoms or no symptoms at all, and that your chances of getting seriously ill are really, really low.
So Soumya, if we can still get infected and also infect others, even after we are fully vaccinated, then why get vaccinated?
There are two very good reasons to get vaccinated. The first is to protect yourself from getting severely ill if you catch the infection. We know that there's a certain proportion of people of all age groups who do get severely ill, and you could have a chance of dying from this disease, and this is what we want to protect. So that's why you want to get vaccinated in the first place. But secondly, if you get vaccinated, and yes, you may still get the infection, because we know that these vaccines are not going to protect you 100% from the infection. So there is a small risk you get infected, and you could pass it on to others. Why do you want to take the risk of doing that? Why do you want to be one person in the chain of transmission? What we need to do in the world today is to break those chains of transmission, get a control on this disease. So that's why we say get vaccinated as soon as you can get access to your vaccine when your turn comes, and continue to take all the precautions so that you are completely protecting yourself as well as protecting others around you.
Thank you, Soumya. That was Science in 5 today. Until next time then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stick with science. As 2020 comes to an end, people are getting ready for holidays. In many countries, this is also the wedding season. So people are getting ready to get together with their families, their friends, and to travel to be with their loved ones. How can we ensure that we stay safe during these holidays? Here to explain the science behind the tools that you have at your disposal to keep yourself safe is Dr. Soumya Swaminathan. Welcome, Soumya.
Hello, Vismita. Pleasure to be with you.
Soumya, explain to us the tools that each family, each one of us has at our disposal to keep ourselves safe, and the science behind these tools.
Now that we understand how this virus spreads from person to person, we can also make sense of what we need to do and why we need to do those things. So, how does a virus spread? If someone is infected and they're coughing or speaking or breathing heavily, there are always small droplets that come out of our mouth of different sizes. And in those droplets, you can have virus particles if you're infected. So knowing that, the science behind it, then we can see, okay, what do we need to do? We need to keep a physical distance from people, at least 1 meter, wherever possible, if possible more. We need to wear a mask so that when these droplets are coming out, when we speak, they're blocked by the mask. They're not escaping out into the air. And then we need to wash our hands frequently with soap and water, or we can use alcohol-based hand disinfectants. We need to avoid closed, unventilated places. If you're indoors with a lot of people, doors and windows need to be kept open. And if possible, do things outdoors wherever possible. So if we follow these measures, then we can try to reduce or limit the amount of transmission of this virus. So during the holiday season particularly, when we tend to do these things, we tend to gather in larger groups, we tend to go shopping, we tend to go into crowded places, we tend to spend time together with friends and extended family, then that increases the risks of this virus spreading, and we need to make sure that we remember these measures that we have to take.
Soumya, we also have people in our families who are at risk. Who are these people and how can we keep them safe?
So we know that the people at risk of developing complications and becoming really ill from this COVID-19 are those whose immune system is weak. So this is the elderly. As you get older, your immune system becomes less able to fight infections. It's people who have underlying diseases like high blood pressure or diabetes or heart disease or chronic lung disease. It's people who are on treatment for diseases like cancer, which weakens the immune system. Also, obesity has been found to be a risk factor, of course, so that affects younger people as well. So when we think about our families, I think as we want to come together and celebrate the festivals, we need to think about who in our family is most at risk, whom do we need to protect. And while we want to celebrate with them, we need to reduce their risk. So it's the older people in the family, but it's also people with these underlying diseases. So one way of doing that is to have celebrations, but keep it within the members of a household, that are regularly living together and that are meeting anyway, and try to minimize gatherings where you have many different households and families coming together, because that always increases the risk of infection. In parts of the world where the weather is fine to have outdoor gatherings, that's safer than having indoor gatherings. But we also need to remember the physical distancing, the mask wearing, the hand washing. And if anyone is unwell, has a cough or fever, they should really not be going into these family gatherings.
Is it safe to travel? And if one must travel, how can we make that journey safe?
Yes, so the first question is to ask yourself, do I definitely need to travel? Is it a must? And if it is, then one has to minimize the risk. We know that no travel is going to be risk-free, but we can do many things to minimize that risk. And that is, again, the same things. Try to keep a distance when you're in the plane or the train or a bus. If you're in a bus or a car where you can open your windows, or even in a train, keep the windows open so you're getting a lot of ventilation. Keep your mask on all the time. Make sure that you carry a disinfectant with you to clean your hands or wash your hands frequently with soap and water. If you're unwell, if you're suffering from fever or cough, don't travel, postpone it. And then finally, if you're arriving at a destination where you have to meet people who are at higher risk of getting the infection, to be really safe, better to quarantine yourself for 14 days before you actually start mixing with the larger family, particularly if they're vulnerable people in that group.
Thank you, Soumya. There you have it, WHO's Chief Scientist, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, explaining how you can have safe holidays this season. So from the entire WHO family, we wish you happy holidays. Until next time then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stick with science.
There are several practical measures you can take to protect yourself from the new coronavirus. One of the most important is regular, safe, and effective hand hygiene, using soap and water or alcohol-based hand rub. Here are the steps recommended by WHO to follow. You too can have safe and clean hands anywhere. Now I'm calling on the world to take the WHO Safe Hands Challenge to be ready for coronavirus.